Alright, welcome back everyone to the third video in our video series on creating Node.js apps from beginning to end. In this video, we are going to take a look at using the Node.js environment, things you should know, and how to get all set up with that. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is create that Node project just like we did last time and create a new folder. I'm going to call this folder something like Node Programming. Once I have that folder, I'm going to drag it down to my terminal like so that it opens up in this correct working directory. Once I'm in that working directory, I can run npm init, that yes flag. We learned about all this last lesson, so if any of this is confusing, go ahead and check that out. And once we have that set up, we are just going to go ahead and open this all up in a text editor. I use VS Code, so just code dot for me is going to open up everything in the folder in my editor, and there it is. Everything is in the folder right now is just package.json. And right here, if you remember from last lesson, we talked about this is the main field that's going to be the primary entry point for the program. So we need to create that file. So what we're going to do when we're in this, we're just going to create a file. I'm going to call it index.js. And now we have that. So the things you should know before going into Node.js is you should know some basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. By HTML and CSS, really all I mean by need to know is you just need to know the basic DOM elements that make up HTML, and you just need to know how CSS works with styling your page. If not, you'll still be able to follow along. It's just going to make some more sense, and you'll be able to apply it on your own a little better if you understand those things. With JavaScript, you are going to have to know JavaScript already because Node.js is written in JavaScript. You write JavaScript to run your program, so you're going to have to know that. Especially if you have experience with ECMAScript 6, that's going to be a huge benefit because Node.js does make a huge use of ECMAScript 6 features. So these are just some of the basic things that you should know getting into Node.js with JavaScript, the things you should know. If there's any of these that you don't know, I have videos on all of these, so you can go check those out, get some clarity, and understand them, which is really going to help you out in the rest of this course. You should know anonymous functions. You should know the difference between an anonymous function and a typical function. Whereas a typical function, you would have function myfunc, and then just do something here. With an anonymous function, you're going to just have you're just going to have function, and it's not going to have a name, and it's just going to say do something here, whatever we do there. Now you notice it's giving us an error here, and that's because in this context, an anonymous function doesn't make a lot of sense. But what we can do with this anonymous function is set it equal to a variable with a function expression. So we're going to say let my func equal, and then set it equal to an anonymous function. So this is different than this, and you should know the difference, and you should also know what applications you can use anonymous functions in, such as if we made this an immediately invoked function right here like that, and this would just run right away. You should know that. You should know how to pass these into arguments as arguments to other functions, and that goes on to our next topic, first class functions. You should know how first class functions work, what they are, and why we use them, as in being able to pass them in. So if I were to say just function and have a function again, and then it's going to expect another function, so a parameter function, and then we're going to do something with that parameter function, you should know how to pass in functions as a parameter. That's first class functions. You should also know arrow functions. Arrow functions basically just a different syntax for functions. So instead of saying functions myfunc, doing something there, instead you would have, and these are used with function expressions, you'd say let my func equal, and then you have your parameters here, and then the arrow, hence its name arrow function, and then doing something there. You should know what those are and how we use those. You should also know how callbacks work, wherein you have a function that expects a function, say it expects a parameter and it expects a parameter function that's going to be called a callback. So we'll just say CB for callback. So you have that, and say it's going to return a callback with an error. So you should know how to pass in a callback by calling my func, and then the first parameter, just some text, and then the callback. And this is when we use anonymous functions. We're just going to create an anonymous function here without a name, and we're going to say error and result, just a basic callback. Here's our error function with anonymous functions, and we say if error, do something else, do something else. So having a callback in your functions, passing them around, you should know how to do that. Also, you should know promises, because promises are another way of basically a substitute for callbacks. So you should know how to say like let my promise func equal new promise, and you should know that this is going to return a new promise, and then whatever you're going to have resolve or reject, right? And then say if something, then you're going to resolve and pass something in there, else you're going to reject. And usually you're going to pass a error in here, bad info. All right, so you should know how to create a promise and send it back, and how to use it by calling my promise func, and then doing the dot then and the dot catches and the new dot finallys. So you should know how all of this stuff works. If you don't, again, I have videos on each of these, so you can go and check those out, get some clarity, and understand those. Once you do understand all of those, you'll be able to work very well in the Node.js environment. So that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we're actually going to be creating our first Node.js server. So that'll be exciting. We're going to start our server up and look at it in the browser and see what's going on. So see you there.